Okay, awesome. The recording part is in, and we should be ready to start. Um, I think the recording is working. Yep, looks good. Okay, so first of all, hey Jack, how are you?
Good. How about yourself? Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, the pleasure is ours. So thank you to everyone that's joined in to listen to us today. And so let me just explain how this fireside chat is going to work, Jack. So the BuilderGroop team has prepared some questions for you internally, and then after that, we're going to be having a community Q&A. So some folks have dropped some questions for you that they've had in a thread. So we'll be asking those. So let me quickly introduce you. So you're basically Jack is a high school graduate based out of Kansas City, and he's currently working as a software developer at AMC Theaters. He has over 5 years of experience in the software world. So with that said, let's get started. And actually, before I start, I forgot to mention we'd love for you all to put your questions for in the thread called Q&A questions for Jack under the events channel, because we'll be asking those towards the end of our event. So yeah, Bearcat, if you'd like to start.
All right. So for the first section that we have here, so as we all know, college is a vital part of the lives of multiple individuals. It has its upsides and downsides. So the question that we have is, what led you to your decision not to go to college?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question, and I think a lot of people were like, "What? You don't want to go to college? Like that's crazy." And I'll even start by saying like I am very fortunate enough to the point where I didn't really even have to worry about the costs of college. Like my parents were nice enough, and I'm very grateful that they would have even paid for it for me. But if I don't feel like I'm gonna go in trying, I don't think it's worth wasting the money. So my rationale kind of is, well, first and foremost, I don't like school that much. Like I love learning, no question about it. But if I don't feel like I'm learning anything that's going to be useful to me within like the next 5 to 10 years, like I don't know if I see a point. So it was like a lot of the stuff I was learning in high school, I didn't really feel like I had any application for. So it's kind of like, so wait, why am I spending 4 years of my life here? Like I definitely believe that some level of education is essential, like just some basic level. But after some point, it's like if you want to go be a software dev, you don't need geography. You don't need. I mean, like it's good to know some of these things, no question about it. But I just didn't feel like it was gonna be worth my time spending 4 more years learning when I could just jump right into the workforce. And rising college costs is a big thing. You know, you look at what wages have done over the past, we'll say 70 years, and you look at what college has done over the past 70 years. Well, college is up around 1,200%, I believe, and wages are probably not even close to that. So it's like my mom or parents used to say, "Oh, I used to be able to pick up a part-time job and work to pay for college." Nowadays, you better have some crazy $200 an hour part-time job if you want to do that. So I don't know, it's just different, and I think things are changing, and with technology and how where everything's headed, it's just going to be a lot different. So that's my take
Yeah,
on it.
yeah, it makes sense. So for the second question that we have, so there are a ton of companies out there with like great paying tech roles and amazing environments. So how did you come to your decision to work at AMC and choose it over other companies?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, really, this is my third, really second job. So I wasn't too picky per se. So I guess I can kind of go across my timeline, which maybe you'll ask me about later. But really, I got into tech by getting an entry level or an internship, an unpaid internship during my high school experience. My web design teacher, which I can talk a little bit about that later. My school had a web design program, and my web design teacher came to me with a potential internship opportunity at a local Fortune 500, and it was unpaid, but it was during the school day, so that made it legal, and that was great because really that just got my feet in the door, and then I kind of transitioned to later on to Yellow Freight because at Cerner I was an unpaid intern, and it was a high school level opportunity, and they had no expectations of me converting to full time. I'd even asked my team lead. I said, "Hey, would there be any potential for me to come in full time without a degree?" And he said, "No, we expect all our employees to have full college college degrees." So, well, I started applying after that. But for AMC, yeah, there are a lot of sorry, I mean, I kind of came off on a tangent there, but there are a lot of high paying tech jobs out there right now. primarily the reason I went with AMC, while I was working with a local recruiter, AMC's headquarters are 20 minutes from my house. So for me, first and foremost, I got to work with a local team. Pay was great, and I'm loving it so far. So it's been good.
That's nice. So how long have you been at AMC so far?
I've been at AMC for probably coming up on 6 months now. So not long at all. Actually, probably more like 5 months. So not long at all. And I know I saw a question in Q&A asking, "Oh yeah, how was it during the whole fiasco of Wall Street bets?" And I wasn't really quite there for that, so I came in a little bit later, but not too long. And I'm doing a contract to hire position, so I'm technically working for the recruiting company, but here in March I convert to full time with AMC. So.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So for the last question in this section is, so teamwork is an essential part for like any large project. So what's your experience like working with a team, in general, you're at AMC, and what do you personally feel about collaboration and teamwork?
Yeah. So actually at AMC, this has probably been my favorite job so far. Actually, hands down, no question. Like the team is pretty small. We've got maybe 10, 15 devs, and that's composed of like half web, half mobile, but everybody's cross-trained. So I came in as a web dev and basically just worked on defects, so just like minor issues to get me up to speed with the large code base. And ran through that for a couple months, and then come now, we're actually working on a new Flutter and Dart mobile app. So we're rebuilding our mobile app. We currently have a Xamarin C# app, but we wanted to rebuild it with more modern tech, and it was kind of a pain with the previous one. So the workload for web has kind of died down, and now I'm jumping into mobile over there. But for teamwork, it's been pretty great. I mean, we all kind of just work individually. There really isn't a ton of collaboration. I mean, if we have issues, we bring it up with each other, but realistically, I mean, pick up a card, work, done, and it's been great. At one of my previous jobs, I mean, I think we spent like 75% of our time in meetings. Like we talked about what we would do, but we never did it, you know? So it's like when do you actually get to code? But here we have one meeting a week and it's optional pretty much. So it's been great because I just get to code, as opposed to just being in meetings all day, which is pretty boring, So
Yeah.
it's been good.
Yeah, that's a good way how they run it at AMC.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Erica, for taking care of that section. And Jack, those are amazing answers. As for your last one regarding, being in calls for like 75% of the time, I mean, I can totally relate to that. It's like you strategize and you keep strategizing, but you don't produce any outcome. So yeah, I can, understand how that might be a sort of benefit of working a 9 to 5.
Yeah,
Okay, moving on. So, as you might know, technology is incredible and it's used for almost each and every task we perform in our day-to-day lives. So, my question for you is, when was your first experiment with computers and programming, and what ended up leading you down the computer science path?
sure. That's a great question.
Thank you.
So I'd probably say my initial exposure to it was probably I was like 13 years old, and I guess maybe 12 or 13. I was building out Minecraft servers. So I got into Minecraft. I don't know when, probably way earlier than that, but eventually I got into the server space. I actually never did any development. I paid developers to build custom plugins for the servers I had, which is kind of sad now that I look back. Because I'm like, dang, I really wish I was doing some coding there. But that was kind of what probably introed me into tech. And then come high school, my freshman year, I took this. We have this thing called 21st Century in our area for our school district, and we have certain programs. So like certain schools will do, whether it be like animal or like certain sports med, uh, all kinds of different stuff, green energy, and then the one that the school I went to was like basically just all media, so video, photo, animation, and web design. And yes, web design, not web development, but I'll get on that later. Um, so I kind of got introed into some basic HTML, CSS, and we're talking like very basic. Oh yeah, let's put some horizontal rule elements in HTML and make them rainbow colored, like that kind of stuff. And that was really what introed me into it. And really, I don't think until my junior year of high school I started taking it seriously. I mean, I've probably been coding seriously probably like 2 years now, and I guess I've probably been experienced to it or like exposed to it for like 4 or 5 years. So, yeah.
Right, right. That's an awesome journey. Yeah, it's insane how you've come from learning literal HTML elements, so working a full-time job without a college degree. Kudos. Moving on. So my second question for you is: failure is a core part of the journey to success, obviously, and it enforces learning and it allows you to prevent making the same mistakes again. So the actual question here is: what are some challenges you faced, or things you've had a difficult time with from when you started programming until now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And there has been a lot of failure, and there's no question about that. Because first and foremost, like I'm applying to these corporate jobs. This isn't like startup stuff. Most of these are going through resume tracking systems. They'll do stuff like, oh yeah, does resume have keyword college? If not, throw it in the trash. I think I sent out some 400 applications, 300, 400 applications before I got my first full-time job offer. So yeah, it was pretty tough. It's pretty demoralizing. Just no after no, or just oh, unfortunately, here's an automated response for you. Um, and really, I think I started to question my ability to actually get a job without a degree. I mean, I was very set on it, and like I was super motivated, but like that kind of wears down on you, just constant no's and rejection. I think at one point I kind of broke down a bit. I was like, it got pretty tough for me for a little bit there. And then I think if I had stopped, I don't know where I'd be today, but if I had stopped trying it would have been a very different outcome. So I'm happy I kept going. I mean, I think it was like 1 week later after I had a really tough time, I ended up getting an offer, and it was such a relief. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, it's
So.
insane. And I mean, it's sad, the reality of life and how, you're sort of made to be fixated on that education system in college to be able to get a real job. But it's, great to see companies like Microsoft, Google, etc., all these FANG companies, and of course AMC, sort of opening up the applicants that do not have, a college degree. That's insane stuff. It's like experience is definitely much more worth than a college degree. Um, Moving on. So, a great way to learn more technologies and gain experience is to work on projects or products of your own. So, if you have built any, what are some of the projects you've worked on that you're most proud of?
Not anything huge like you guys. I mean, really, actually, I don't have anything in public, to be honest, that I can really even share. I'm working on a little side project right now that I can't share much about, but I've been primarily fixated on getting a job in tech without a degree, and less so being an entrepreneur and building out my own product, which I'm looking to get more into in the future. And honestly, you definitely learn a lot more building your own product, being a jack of all trades, working on all sides of the project, front end, back end, advertising, design, all that. Like you learn so much more. So I definitely think it's just a different path. Like I think like my path getting corporate, like it's pretty comfortable. You have a job, you have like recurring revenue every month. You get X amount of money, right? Like it's just pretty flat. But when you're your own boss, you own your own business. Like the sky's the limit, right? So maybe I kind of picked my poison there and decided, oh, I'll be safe for a bit and just get like stable income.
Right.
Primarily, my parents told me you either go to college or get a job. Like that, those are my options. Like if you want to live at home, you either go to college or get a job, and I chose get a job. So maybe that was part of it. It was that if I want to live at home, I got to get a job, and I don't know whether they'd consider me making my own startup a job. So maybe that was it. And I think definitely in the next few years of my life, which this may answer another question you have for me, but I definitely think in the near future I'll be trying to work on my own project or startup or something in that nature, at least looking into it. So yeah.
Got you. Interesting. So okay, moving on. Entrepreneurship is a risky, but it's a thrilling path to go down. So my question for you is: do you ever wish to build a startup of your own in the future?
Yeah, and that's funny. I kind of already answered that, but I definitely would be interested in that, and I think I'd learn so much by doing it. And I definitely have seen like a lot of people in this space, all kinds of people in this community who have been building their own products, their own startups, and it is just so cool to watch what everyone's building. I mean, just some of the people in here, it's just really neat. So I definitely think I'd be interested in that. Um, I don't know if that's a great way to say it, but I've been kind of just waiting for an idea, a good idea. But I know a lot of people say just get started, like even if it's a bad idea, just go build it. You get experience on how to build it. That way, when the good idea comes, you're now smart enough to go build it, as opposed to just going stagnant and just saying, "Oh, I'll wait," which is kind of what
Right,
I'm
just
doing. So
throwing
I don't
yourself at
recommend it.
failure.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
fun. And it's an honor for us to hear that you're the community is inspirational for you. It's amazing, honestly, to hear that as a co-owner. Moving on, so the youth is the future, and like I already mentioned, for me, it's incredible to be able to manage a growing community of extremely talented builders and makers. So, since you started programming in your teenage years, 12 or 13, what would be your advice for a young audience looking to build the technical skill set?
Yeah, for sure. Say, good question. Just keep learning, just keep on improving, keep on learning new things. Just build products. Like I spent so much time first and foremost trying to build a portfolio. I think I built like 3 or 4 portfolio sites. I didn't have any projects to put on them. Like, just build products, get something out there, and like show it to the world. Like if you're gonna build something, like showcase what you're building. Make a Twitter account. Like, look at some people in here who have social media accounts and they just share what they do. I mean, it's crazy. And now they're getting job offers from like Barricade. He's potentially going to intern at Shopify. Hopefully that's okay me sharing that. But like, so cool. Like the power of having a network is so important, and it will get you so far. So just build products, just build things, publish them, share them to the world, and keep learning. Don't give up, and you can do anything. I mean, do whatever you want. So that's my
That's
advice.
insane advice, man. Thank you so much for that. And moving on, I'll pass it to Barricade.
All right,
Oh,
so
actually, I'm sorry. I forgot
uh,
to ask you one more question. What tech stack are you most proficient with? And do you enjoy
Uh,
working with it?
yeah. So I'd say my most proficient tech stack would probably be around like TypeScript, Next, JS, and I'm more on the front end side, but I'm looking to get back into back end just to improve my skill set there because I've been pretty much front end up until now. But yeah, I'd say around TypeScript, Node, Next, Next.js, and React. So that's probably it.
Sounds cool. Yeah, I'll pass it on to Barricade now.
all right. I also wanted to ask something, just like adding on to that. Do you like doing like more back end stuff, front end stuff, or like design stuff? Like, what do you prefer doing?
Yeah, for sure. So I'd probably say I like front end more. I don't know, like a couple things like getting into back end. I feel like there's so much more like leak code and all this, and I don't I'm not super about that. Probably is the way to put it. Like, I just enjoy the visual, and like I still like coding. Like, coding's fun to me, but I think I enjoy like building out a front end a lot more than I enjoy building out a back end. Now it's good to learn, and I've been doing some more back end recently just to keep my skills sharp over there. And it's always good to know what's on the other side. Like, you could live in front end land and never know what's going on behind, but it's just good to have an idea and understand what goes into it. So maybe when you're helping someone debug or whatever, you at least are knowledgeable about what's potentially on the other side. So
Makes sense. Yeah. All right, so moving on to the next section, just like general stuff. So, being able to fulfill an ambitious, sorry, being able to fulfill ambitious, sorry.
you're good.
Um,
Hey, you're good.
okay, what I'm trying to say is, what do you aspire to be in the next 5 to 10 years? Is there like a certain like company that you want to work for, or like something equivalent?
Sure. No, that's a great question. And here I am saying I don't like leak code, but I think I'm potentially going to be interviewing at Facebook here soon, just for fun. I have a recruiter that I know who just recently moved there. I don't know. I think it'd be cool to work at a top tech company. Like, it'd feel kind of like validating, like to me as like a self-taught software engineer, kind of like look at what I did. Like you don't need to have whatever credentials just to get in. Like, I think it'd be cool. No, I don't think it would be like. I think it'd be fun to go there for a bit. And I know I mean, obviously they pay quite crazy wages, so being able to potentially retire early or whatever off that would be pretty neat. I know I've seen a couple people do some crazy things like that, like go work at top tech and then retire by 30. That's crazy. I don't know that I necessarily plan to do that, but I think it'd be cool to get into the top tech space and just experience it. Like, I don't think it'd be as fun as I think it'd be. Like, I think it'd be extremely stressful, but I think it'd be also really rewarding in some ways. So I don't know. I think it'd be worth trying to get in and just doing the interviews for fun at least. So
Makes sense. Yeah. So going back to like the previous questions, do you ever plan to go to college in the future, or just like no?
yeah, that's actually really funny. I know people. Someone was like, "Oh, but he can always still go to college," and I'm like, "Yeah." But I mean, like, but why though? Like, I mean, for sure to potentially further my education, but again, back to me saying that I don't think school has the most I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot of fluff. Like, you go to college and you want to get a computer science degree. Okay, you got to learn math, science, history, English, whatever else. Like it's good to know a lot of that stuff, and I think math can definitely be important in computer science. But depending on what you're doing, like if you're doing front end, there really is little to no math, unless you're doing some 3D. Maybe you need some geometry, and then maybe there's some math in there. But I mean, basic HTML, CSS, whatever, you're not doing much math there. So I mean, maybe in backend, there's probably some more math, but I just feel like there's a whole lot of fluff, and again, I just don't think it's worth the cost and the amount of time that it'd take me to get and the stress it would give me. I just don't think is worth it. And I think it'd probably actually kind of set me behind because at this point, if I took 4 years out of my life to go get a degree as opposed to working and saving like everything I'm making because I'm living in my parents' basement, um, it would cost me 300-400 grand just to go do that plus college costs, so maybe 50 grand. So really, it ended up costing me like $500,000 about after everything's said and done for me to take time off work, go study, and pay for college and whatever. Like, so I just can't picture that being worth it at this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it makes sense. You already like you're like 19 and like already have like it's like going well for you right now, right? So I think it's going like really good. So it does make sense. So yeah.
yeah.
So for the next question, is there anyone that inspired you to start programming? Was it like friends, family, or were you just like curious?
Really? I was just curious, and it's kind of crazy because Hayden, who's in here right now, was probably the first person I met, and this was after I graduated even, that was actually passionate about coding. I don't know if it's my area or what, but there just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of passionate coders, and I've met a couple more since then actually who maybe have taken coding boot camps and whatnot. So I have a couple more coding buddies locally, but really, like, and I hear stories about other people in this community who went to school and like they come out and there's like a group of 5 of them who are all like very good programmers, and it's like, man, what I would do to have had that, like to have a group, a tight knit group of buddies who are all really good at programming, all went to school together, like, are in the area together, like that would be so cool. Obviously, I can't go back in time, but I forgot what the original question was. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So
Makes sense. Yeah. So for the next question, so burnouts can happen like a lot as we like all know. So, the question that I have is, what do you add to your routine when you're overworked and feel like taking a break from your screen, or like do you like start doing like activities outside of coding, like if it's sports or anything else that you like to do?
yeah, no, that's a great question. Well, recently I've been going to the gym, and I've been making a point to get to the gym consistently. Because I mean, I work from home. My hobbies are video games, watching TV, coding. So it's all on the computer, right? So it's like, when do I get to leave my house? And humans weren't built to sit on their butt and just move their fingers. We were built to do other things, but that's all right. So getting to the gym has really improved my mental and physical health so much. I mean, tenfold. It's crazy because we're not built to sit and do nothing. But for burnout, I experienced this a lot when I was trying to get into programming because like I would and honestly, it's kind of weird. I feel like I kind of have phases of my life, and I'm kind of in like the coasting phase right now. Like I feel like I go like a year on like so hard, like I'm just grinding every day like nonstop. And then I kind of burn out and kind of just take like half a year to a year and just kind of like coast. And then again, back on. And I'm kind of in that coasting phase. Like I was grinding, I got a job now, good paying job. And now I'm just working. And works, honestly, compared to the phase I was in before getting a job, like the amount I was working, like just grinding to get better and improve my skill set, work is easy, man. I mean, well, like at least for me right now, my current job, work is easy, compared to what it was before. Um, so I'm kind of coasting right now, but yeah, for burnout, I mean, just dealing with it. I think being physically active is great. Taking breaks and enjoying life too. Like life can't just be only work. I mean, you gotta have some fun. Go hang out with friends. Go grab a drink or just whatever. Just gotta enjoy life a little bit too. So don't get too caught up in coding, but it's always a good time. So yeah.
Yeah. So for the last question section is more like just generally, would you consider yourself as an introvert or extrovert?
I don't, dude. That's a great question. I swear I'm like both. I don't know. I'm
We
extrovert
all
when I'm around the right people. Like if I'm around people that I'm comfortable around, or like I have something I can actually like converse with you about. Like maybe you know like a coding language, or oh you know whatever. Like if you have something that I can talk with you about, and we could just go on for hours, then like I will talk with you. But otherwise, I'm just kind of like in my own shell. Like I mean, I won't initiate much. Like I'll say hi, whatever, how you been, no question. But if we got something to talk about, we will talk. So I don't know. Somewhere in the middle, maybe neutral. I don't know if that's a thing, but
Yeah. Yeah, makes
honestly,
sense.
yeah, like personally, I can relate to that as well. I'm pretty sure a lot of folks can. The pandemic just changed us all, man. It's like it was insane how so many of us sort of developed to go from introvert to extrovert or vice versa, or even in your case, neutral. So actually, I'd like to sort of intervene here and ask if Maxigrom, so Hayden, since Jack formally mentioned that you have been a sort of vital part in his journey, would you like to come up on stage and sort of give your inputs on Jack's journey and how it was from your point of view? And yeah, you should be on stage in a sec.
and I can go ahead and intro actually how I met
Yeah,
Hayden real quick.
yeah, sure, go
And
for
if
it.
Hayden has anything to say or not, I don't know. We'll see. But
He's here. He's here.
oh, cool. Okay, good. I didn't know if he's
Yeah.
there. Literally how it worked was so Hayden was working at Notify, or the startup. If you guys are familiar with Notify, which has since gone down, but I knew of Notify. I watched Twitch. I was watching the tech space, and Hayden graduated from the same high school that I went to 2 years before me. Keep in mind, I did not know him while he was going to my high school, and he was not in the web program at my school. So like, I had no way to connect with him. Like, and we did not know each other. We did not know that we each code. And actually, I guess he probably would have graduated by the time I started taking it seriously. But whatever. I was on LinkedIn. This would have been maybe my senior year or something, and I see Hayden Fletcher working at Notify. He's connected with our web design teacher on LinkedIn, and I'm like, okay, where do I know Notify? What the heck? And I'm like, I look it up. I see, and I start looking at the Notify website. I see Hayden Fletcher, Kansas, and I'm like, everyone else on there is like all these other big cities, wherever else, and then Kansas, and I'm like, no way, another tech bro from Kansas, because like I just don't feel like I've met that many that are young and doing what we're doing. From Kansas, so I saw that and I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like I have to reach out to this guy because I knew of Notify." I sent him a message on LinkedIn, "Hey, whatever," and then we connected on Twitter. And I think maybe I don't know if it was that exact same night or I don't know what it was. I'd have to look at our old DMs. We
Yeah, I
went and
think it
met
was
up.
like a week later.
Oh, maybe a week later. We went and met up. I told my mom, "Hey, I'm going like," and I never leave the house. I really didn't end up. I don't have a whole lot of buddies. So I told my mom like, "Hey, I'm going to meet this guy. It's like 1 a.m. It's just some random dude. We're going to a co-working space." And she's like, "Uh, oh, who is he?" Oh, you went to the same school as me. She's still like, okay. And I'm like, I never leave the house. I'm always down here coding. So she's like, okay, he's going out to meet some random dude at 1 a.m. Whatever. But it's just a funny story. Whatever. So Hayden, I don't know
Wow,
if you got anything to say, but
it's insane. Yeah, like Hayden, if you'd like to give your inputs and your point of view, share your point of view on Jack's journey and how you sort of
Yeah.
gradually evolved into his first programming fund, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's been really cool like sitting and watching him grow. Again, like we completely met by like random chance. Like what are the chances that we were in the same city at that specific time?
and me looking on
Um
LinkedIn and finding you
yeah.
randomly.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, just that origin story is a really fun thing to tell people. But yeah, so that was my first tech job that I had gotten. I had been personally doing stuff for the longest time. And I was like a month or two into that job at that point. Um, and so it just felt like the most insane, like coincidence to have run into somebody who was following the company that I was working at right after I had joined. And, just it's just like this really fascinating basis of connection. Um, but yeah, so I think me having gotten that job at that point and using sort of that link, um, I guess sort of helped to
as like a source of motivation in a way, I think. Like I tried to use it to help propel Jack into getting a job. Um, because I was like, I mean, look, I'm not like the smartest person ever. Like, yeah, I can do all this stuff, whatever. But like I managed to get a job with nothing but high school experience. Like you can totally do that too. And so it was really cool, like seeing him sit down and just like start applying to places like crazy, sort of knowing what he was worth. And at the time, um, that job that I was at the time sort of ended up falling out. And I temporarily, I didn't have the greatest resume experience nor the greatest job finding experience. And so I ended up actually going and working at like a fast food restaurant. And during the time that I was working there, sort of in the little time in between jobs, I mean, it was only like 3 months. Jack was sitting down and, like I said, just applying at places like crazy. And he was doing like at least like 5 interviews a week, if not more, I think, Jack.
Yeah, it was
Um,
something like that. And I was
yeah.
bombing those. Like it for a while, it took me a while before I had a good interview. And it was really pretty sad. Like I bombed some of those interviews and I was just so nervous doing them. But honestly, you get the hang of it. And like give it 5, 10 interviews, you'll be a pro by the end. Like, no question. So
Insane stuff. Yeah, it's definitely a small world. It's insane how you guys sort of met via LinkedIn. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on Maxichrome. It was a pleasure having you. So
yeah,
okay,
thanks,
moving
Hayden.
on. Yeah. We have the community Q&A now. So if any of you have not put your questions for Jack in the respective thread under the events channel, please do so immediately because we're going to start asking those right now. So, okay, let's start. The first question from our co-founder Ari, working on Snaps, is what was it like working at AMC during the whole WSB stock market fiasco? Did it affect anything within the company that you could see or experience firsthand?
Yeah, so I actually wasn't quite there during that. I mean, AMC is still known as a meme stock. I'm still seeing it everywhere. And recently we came out with a Spider-Man NFT around our movie, and it's still kind of crazy, like hearing people talk about like the company you work at, because I've never worked at like a big company that a lot of people know of, really. So like seeing people be like, oh yeah, all this stuff about AMC, it's kind of crazy. But internally, I don't know. I think we kind of just embraced the meme, and for all the people who were there, who have been there for a while, I bet they're happy. If they had equity, of course. They're pretty happy. And I don't know. I mean, we liquidated quite a bit of we got quite a bit of funding now after the whole Wall Street bets deal. So at least for the future outlook, we have some just to go through COVID and whatnot. We have some little bit of wiggle room there, just in case things don't go as great over the next 5 to 10 years. But again, I wasn't really there during the Wall Street bets fiasco, so I can't give any great insight into that. But it's been interesting working at a quote unquote meme stock company, so to speak. So
Right. Awesome. Okay, moving on. NRBXYZ asks, what is working at AMC like? That's the
yeah,
first question.
and I already kind of mentioned this. It's probably one of my best jobs so far because a lot of the big corporate programming jobs, at least from what I've experienced, they're like pure meetings. Like in corporate, everybody talks about what they're gonna do, but no one does it. Everyone's too scared to fail. No one wants to actually like try anything, execute. And like no one wants to fail because they don't want to get in trouble or fired, so they're just gonna sit around and burn time and just talk about what they're going to do and never do it. So for AMC, I already mentioned this earlier. We have one meeting a week and it's optional. And that was new. Like I didn't even have that earlier. And we all work pretty independently. Like if we need help from a teammate or whatever, we'd reach out. But I mean, for the most part, it's just kind of heads down coding. I got a pretty small team. My management's great. I've been really enjoying it so far. So that's the kind of job you want if you're trying to get into corporate, because startup land is very like free form. You get to be creative. It's great. But if you're looking to get into corporate, like be very aware that it's kind of it'll burn you out. It'll wear on you. Just the constant meetings, the constant politics. It's just not great sometimes. So I'm really happy to have found a place that is very like less compared to what or less of that compared to what I've had in the past. So that's been my experience so far, but it's been good.
Yeah, definitely. Great answer. So the second question NRBXYZ has is, what was the biggest change in your life after you got a job? And this is again a pretty good question.
Yeah. So really, it's kind of been funny because my life hasn't changed all that much. Like it was so funny because I was so stressed. Oh no, like what am I gonna do if I don't get a job? Blah blah. And all of a sudden, I got a job, and then it's like, oh wait, I have a job, and then I wanted a better job, and I got a better job, and it's like, wait, okay, it happened. My life still feels kind of the same. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to high school anymore, but still kind of feels the same. I still wake up, eat breakfast, go downstairs to my computer. I still live in my parents' house. And I definitely could go out and rent a place and do whatever, but I just don't think it's worth burning $1,000 a month. Like I have a great relationship with my family, so like if you're in that position and you could live at home, like yeah, it might not be as fun. Yeah, you just got a new cool job, and it'd be great to go live out with some buddies and go just live the life. But for now, I'm like being so young and having the ability to save so much capital, it just makes way too much sense to live at home. And honestly, I'm spoiled. My parents make me food. They make my bed. They do my laundry. So I'm like I'm a little spoiled. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense for me to leave right now, I guess. But not much has
Right.
changed besides the fact that now I have a job. But I'm saving all of it, so it doesn't really feel like I make that much money anyway. I'm still living just how I was before I got the job. So.
Right, right. Makes sense. Alpha Null working on Flutter asks, what are some practical tips for a guy trying to gain some job experience? Did you submit a resume? If so, what was your resume like?
Yeah, for sure. I could post my resume later on. What I have now, my first resume was garbage. I put this SVG background and all kinds of stuff. It looked well. Now I look back and think that it wasn't even that great. But you have to keep in mind most of these resumes are going through like resume tracking systems, automated systems. So if they're trying to read SVGs and all kinds of, it's not going to be great. So you got to keep it bare bones, but. I'd say for trying to get a job without a degree, you really have to be pretty committed. I'd say networking is very key, and just applying. Like my first job I got, I'll let you, I sent out 300 or 400 applications before I got my first full-time offer. I did maybe 20, 30, 40 interviews, and the first 5 interviews, 10 interviews, maybe 15 went bad, very bad. I bombed quite a few of them, bombed coding portions. I got nervous, all kinds of stuff. But really, I started to get pretty confident near the final ones. I was like, and I could tell, I could sense I was getting better at it because it's kind of a game. You get better at interviewing. It's a skill, no question about it. So you could be the best programmer in the world and not know how to interview and potentially not get a job because of it. So it's kind of sad, but that's just kind of how it is. But I'd say just apply, like just shoot out some job apps, get yourself out there. Reach out to recruiters if you have a specific company in mind. Just reach out, see what they have. Maybe they have if you want like, and internships are big too. Getting an internship is really big because really that puts you in the door. And for me, my internship at Cerner, when I put that on my resume, I kind of marked it. I just put software engineer. I didn't put the level, and I don't think that's lying. I might not be telling the full truth, but who's to say what level of work you did? You could be an intern at Google, or you could be a full-time employee at some no-name company, and that's not to be rude, but and then I think the intern could be potentially doing more challenging or invigorating work. So it's like, who's to really say what level of work you did? Like, don't let a title describe or a level describe you. I mean, you can still put software engineer in. And then for my first job, it was actually listed as a senior level developer. And the only reason I think I got looked at was because maybe like 5 people applied to it, and the application was god awful. Oh my goodness. I don't know if I wasn't desperate for a job then, I would not have applied to that. That application was god awful. So I guess look for ugly job applications and look for ones with low applicants on LinkedIn. That was how what it was. And the interview was listed as a mid level, and then by the final interview they brought it down to a junior, which I was like, hey, I don't care, man. Like I wasn't really even looking for a senior level position. I was just trying to get someone to look at me, you know. And that was just kind of how I got in. But I think just apply, keep working on your skills, man. Keep showing everybody what you're doing. Keep whether it be going on Twitter, showcasing, writing articles, working on your resume. Just keep getting better. Just keep getting better, and you'll get there. And don't give up. I think I was about to give up maybe a week or two before I got my job, and I look back and think, wow, like imagine if I gave up. Like imagine if I just decided I was done with it and I was going to go the traditional route because it was going to be maybe potentially more guaranteed. So that's my advice for anyone trying to get into tech without a degree.
Awesome answer. That was some great advice. So thank you for that. Before I move on, I just want to mention to the community, anyone that's interested in asking Jack a question like in regards to his journey with programming or getting a job or whatnot, make sure you put in the relevant thread. It's called Q&A questions for Jack, and it's under the events channel. Moving on, Jack, I'd like to mention that I'm not too sure about this question, so if you're not at liberty to disclose, it's completely chill. You're under no obligation to answer this.
Sure
But
thing.
yeah, the question is, what were the interview questions like for AMC?
Yeah, no, and I'm able to. I mean, that's not a big deal.
Ooh.
So like a lot of people, for like big tech at least, like it seems pretty common. People go grind leak code and go prepare for that kind of stuff. A majority of, well, maybe not a majority. I don't know. All the jobs I've ever interviewed for have not been that format. And keep in mind, I'm front end, and I've mainly been front end. So it was pretty basic. I mean, it's just like what kind of experience do you have with like CI/CD? So like they use Jenkins. We use Jenkins and Octopus for continuous integration and deployment at AMC. And just like stuff like, oh, what kind of experience do you have with React? What are some projects you've worked on? Do you have experience with GraphQL? Like just really just it was just a conversation about tech. It wasn't anything too crazy, and they didn't have me do a coding test or anything. And you have to keep in mind, this was a contract to hire position. So it kind of makes it safer for them. So when you go into a full-time agreement with a company, at least in the US, it makes it kind of hard to fire that employee if they're actually full-time. So for me being a contractor, I think they were maybe a little more lenient bringing me in. Like just the interview wasn't too crazy. They didn't have me do some crazy whiteboarding and hour-long interview and so many rounds or whatever. It was just 2 rounds, and they liked me enough to bring me in. And really, I mean, it's a contract, so I get to test them out, make sure I like the job, and they get to test me out, make sure I'm doing good work, and they like working with me. So it's a pretty basic interview, really. And yeah.
Awesome.
So.
That's cool. Shrey asks, what are your opinions on entrepreneurship and Web3?
Huh.
This is entrepreneurship in Web3, by the way. I don't know if I
In Web3.
mispronounced
Okay.
that.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
good. I don't know. I'm not super in the Web3 or crypto space. I definitely have been. I don't know. I'm not super knowledgeable about it, so I can't give a great answer. But I definitely think there's a lot of opportunity there, and there's definitely room for people to do some really cool stuff. And again, I think the technology is pretty cool. I don't like. I think it's going to take a lot of infrastructure, like, to be built around it for it to actually be like utilized properly and like actually make sense to use the technology. But I think it's definitely cool and something to look at. But I think it'll be a little while before it actually gets utilized and a lot like it becomes mainstream. And maybe it's mainstream being talked about, but like being used, probably not quite. So that's my thoughts on it. And that's not really around entrepreneurship, more just Web3 in general. But again, I can't really speak on that too much. But
Yeah, no, fair
yeah.
enough. Yeah, the hype is pretty interesting. Okay, Vert asks, what did your parents think of you not going to college?
Yeah,
This is also
that's
a
good.
pretty
That's a
interesting
good one.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I know a couple buddies who I've had that have wanted to do this, and some parents are just kind of like stuck in a mindset, like, because when they were younger, you have to keep in mind, like from the time that most kids our age or however old they are, their parents, well, obviously they're parents, so they're probably going to be like 30, 40, 50. In their
right. The
time,
generation.
college was a necessity. Things are changing, and a lot of people haven't quite caught up to where things are yet, and they don't understand that like things are changing now. Like, I mean, you can go and be a self-taught developer. Like, it's definitely possible. It's challenging, but it's very possible. So I think it's just new, and you just have to have an open mindset. And I think so it just depends. It just kind of depends what your parents um think. And in the end, they're all, you're the kid and they're the parent. So um if they decide you should go to college, then obviously everyone has a different parenting style. But my parents personally, they were quite supportive of it. I think they wanted me to go to college. And my mom was pretty worried there for a bit because I was this was during COVID. I was remote high school, and I had gotten a full-time job offer while I was in high school. And I was like, I told my mom, I said, hey, I got a job offer, whatever, and like I want to accept it, but I'm in high school. And she was telling me, she's like, you can't drop out, like it's not gonna happen. Like I need you to graduate just in case something doesn't work out and you have to go to college. Was kind of the idea. So she was pretty worried there. And then we talked with my counselor, and I ended up dropping all my classes except for English, which was you needed 4 years of English to graduate from the high school that I went to. Like I guess in the area that I live, that's the requirement. So I pretty much kind of slimmed down my class load to one class, and then I worked. Well, I did school remotely and I worked remotely, so I kind of had to juggle that for a bit there. But they were mostly supportive of it. They never were super against it. I mean, they were kind of just like, you go try. I mean, my dad says, oh, when Jack was 13 doing Minecraft server making some money, I stopped worrying about him, is what he says. So they've been pretty supportive throughout it, and they've always just kind of been like, well, you give it your best shot, and if it doesn't work out, like you can always go to college. It's kind of the mindset they've operated under, which is great. Like, because I've heard of some parents who have not been supportive of like trying to do self-taught dev, and I know so many talent, like, and I'll be talking with devs who have said, oh yeah, my parents won't let me do it, or like they want me to go to college, and I'm like, dude, this guy's smarter than me, like I know he could do it. So I don't know, I think it just kind of depends on the parents experiences and past life, because things are just different now, and things used to be different, to where college was kind of a necessity, and you were at a disadvantage if you didn't have a degree. But I think things are changing, so
Right, of
yeah.
course, the generation gap is obviously evident in multiple scenarios actually. But I mean, yeah, it's only a fair argument. Moving on, so Vert again asks, what was the first programming language you ever learned? And I think you
Yeah,
already answered this, but if you'd like to reiterate, feel free
Yeah,
to.
that would be JavaScript. So, and man, when I was first doing JavaScript, I didn't know what I was doing. I'd go on Stack. I'd how to do smooth scroll. Find a little jQuery snippet, include jQuery just so I could bring in smooth scroll. I didn't know what I was doing. But this was, I guess it would have been like sophomore year, and maybe even junior year, really, of my high school, where I started. Junior year is probably where I started learning JavaScript. And not much. I think the summer after my junior year is when I really started taking it serious, getting into Node, React, TypeScript, and all that. Like I really started to take it serious then. But really, I mean, I haven't been doing JavaScript for that long. I mean, I've been coding for a bit, but I've been taking coding seriously for probably like 2 years now, realistically. So I mean, anything's possible in a short amount of time if you work hard enough. So.
Definitely. Yeah, great answer. Xavier Martin, who has happened to win the Product Hunt Golden Kitty Award this year, congrats on that. He asked, where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
Wow, that's a great question. Wait, is it couple or 5 to 10? Because I know I saw two, and I probably have different
Well,
answers for
couple. So
both
I'm
of those.
assuming
Couple.
he means short term. Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right. That's a good question. I've been saving up capital to try and get into real estate. Like, well, first and foremost, this is like I'm on my computer all day, every day. I code, I play video games, I watch TV, whatever. Like, I'm always in front of a screen. And I've been kind of having some migraines and stuff just from staring at screens, which I probably need to downsize my monitors. But the idea was to try and get into something like physical, whether it be woodworking and like getting into real estate would allow me to do just fix up homes or do stuff like that, like something physical. um some sort of like physical labor would be kind of like nice to just get out of the house and do some stuff. So I guess real estate is kind of what I want to get into, even though the market's really insane right now, so I'm kind of just letting things potentially settle if they will. But in terms of like job and career, I plan to stay at AMC for a year at least, and probably longer. I think I'm going to shoot for potentially a big tech company just because I think it'd be a cool experience to work there. Um, and I think it'd be kind of reassuring to me, like as a self-taught developer, like that's kind of like people like to think that that's the idea of success, and I don't necessarily think it is, but I think it's an achievement, no question about it. So I think it'd be cool in the future, maybe 2 years out, try and get into big tech. But I'm definitely pretty happy where I'm at right now, and I'm really enjoying work and life and whatnot. So just gonna kind of keep
Great.
on learning and keep on going. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Scott Hyatt asks, have you tried BTP post patch?
And that's a reference to Halo. Their net code and their servers are not the best, but the new Halo game.
Ah,
So I think I have, and I don't think they fixed it. So nice, very nice. All right.
Funny asks, how do I get a job?
How do I get a job? They won't even respond. Man, story of my life, dude. Again, like I said, I think I sent out 300, 400 applications before I got my first job. And really, once you get that first job, oh my, it's smooth sailing, really. Again, the first job is really a challenge. I think you just got to make sure you're talking to people. A lot of those resume tracking systems will check against keywords, say, does resume include keyword college? Does resume include keyword this and that? And if you don't have that, then that might get you kicked out of the running before a human even looks at you. So I'd say reach out to actual people. Try and find some jobs, maybe with like low applicants. I know you can do on LinkedIn. You could filter by less than 10 applicants, and that was that job that I applied to, and just apply to any job. Or maybe not any job, but like anything like you think you could remotely do. Like even if it's a senior level position, all right, you apply for it. Who knows? They may have a junior level position in the works that isn't posted on the public. It isn't posted in public. So, um, I'd say just apply. Reach out to recruiters. Do anything you can, and just get feedback. If you got any programmer buddies, and even me, if you want to reach out to me, say, hey, can you check out my resume? Nothing's working. I'm not sticking interviews or whatever. Like, I'll check it out because I mean, I've been there. I was there not long ago. So I'll definitely check it out and see if I can give you any advice. So just reach out to me and reach out to people and just keep trying. Don't
Great.
give up. Don't give up. You never know. Success could be right around the corner. I promise. So keep working
Yeah,
at
of
it.
course. Great initiative. And if anyone needs any resume help, you're more than welcome to reach out to Jack, like he just mentioned. So Sean, who also happens to be a developer from Kansas, I'm going to assume you're aware of Sean.
Yep. Me and him are good
He
buddies.
asks, oh, that's awesome. He asks, how do you first learn to code? What kind of, oh yeah, that's his first question. How do you first learn to code? But I'm pretty sure we already answered that, right? So should I move to the next one, or
No,
would you like to
I can
reiterate?
answer that a little bit. Just some of the tools I use
Yeah,
probably to
sure.
learn. So I'd say, I mean, like, what kind of intro me into coding was high school. Just basic HTML and CSS. And you have to keep in mind, like, it was actually a web design program at my school. So this was not focused on web development, and it was actually more targeted at like CMS systems like WordPress, doing that kind of stuff and designing more so than developing. And I wanted to take the development path, and my web design teacher was amazing. I loved him. He was great. And he knew I loved web, he knew I loved coding, and he basically said, you do whatever you want. I'm not going to give you any assignments. You just go in and work. Like, you go, if you want to go on free code camp and start running through a JavaScript course, you go do that. Like, he did, and which is great because so many other teachers would have said, this is our curriculum, get with it. I don't care what you want to do. Like, this isn't free time. Like, you got to, but he was so great. And honestly, like, being able to spend, I think I had, and at one point I even had 3 hours during the school day where I could just code because I had a free hour. And then with our program, I had 2 hours of web design every day. So really having that experience and being able to just code during that time was great. And I think I used Free Code Camp. I think I used Scrimba, which was like an interactive course website. I don't know if they're still around. I'd assume they are. But Free Code Camp's a great resource, and those were kind of just some of the resources I used to learn. But really, just jump right in. Like, if you see a project you want to do, documentation is great too. Learning how to read documentation is really important too. Just going and being able to Google, looking things up, being able to solve problems on your own.
Great leverage you sort of were able to obtain there, being able to dedicate those 2 hours, being able to utilize them in your personal sort of endeavors and stuff. That must have been amazing.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So, okay, another question from Sean is, did you attend any big digital conferences or follow any large coders?
Digital conferences, not really. I have recently, but not too much. Maybe like Next.js Conf or something, but not really. I haven't been too big into that. And I know there's a local conference to Kansas called KCDC, but it was too expensive, and I was like, I'm not gonna burn like $600 on it. Like, it'd be fun, but I don't know that there'd be many young devs there anyway. So I'm like, eh. But following big tech YouTubers or even just media or content creators, I definitely have. I mean, I don't really have any like off the top of my head, but I definitely followed some, like maybe like Dev by Ed, which I don't know if he's still around, but I think he was doing a bunch of like fun CSS, and like I guess he does JavaScript now too. I'm looking him up, but just there are some good content creators out there around tech, and if you need some, reach out. I could probably find some for you, but I don't have any off the top of my head. But yeah, yeah.
Right, of course. Well, okay, I think the final questions are from Berka himself. So, Berka, if you feel free to ask them yourself, actually, in the
Oh
VC
yeah.
stage
So
matter.
I had three questions. Oh, before I ask that, I'll just ask what Funny said. So you just said follow up. Could it be my resumes are dark themed?
I would not do that either. I don't think I've ever seen a single dark themed resume except for the one that I made, which didn't get any interviews. So maybe, yeah, that could be it. I would try switching it up. I'll take a look at it though. Just shoot me a DM or something.
Funny
But
designer, so I'm sure I'll make something great for his resume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I had three questions. So for the first one, it was how do you find motivation when working on projects or like any just task in general?
Yeah, I think depending on what it is, like I think you just got to remember what you're working on and why you're working on it. Like maybe you're building a task or you're building a project to solve a specific problem that you've been experiencing. Like you just got to keep motivated. What's at the end of the tunnel? Like why are you building this? Like you just got to keep that in mind and don't let go of it because I think if you let people say, "Oh, it's a bad idea," like I don't think it's worth it, and it's just an echo chamber, and you just end up getting in your own head and end up giving up. So you just gotta remember why you started, and just keep on keeping on, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
All
So
right. That's good. So for my second one, it was what are your thoughts on the hype around NFTs and what do you like? Do you like the ones that are being created? Like the more popular ones?
AKA, do I like pictures of monkeys smoking cigars? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think the technology is definitely cool. And I think I kind of echo what a couple people in this community have said. I think the technology is cool, and I think in the future it definitely could be very useful. But I just don't think we have the infrastructure. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go buy crypto. Great. Where are you going? A centralized website. It's like, So it's like for the most part, it's just like I think in the future it definitely, and it's just proof of concept like right now and whatever, which is great. Like I think this is definitely building a strong foundation for the future of it. So I don't know. I think it's a bit overhyped, but I think it definitely has huge potential. I just don't think I think it's going to be a little while before it really gets widely utilized, like crypto, Web3, and everything. But I think it has potential, no question about it. So it'll be exciting to see what actually happens with it in 5 to 10 years. So
Yeah. Yeah. There have been like a lot of like people just like taking the monkey one and like adding like a tiny like gradient to the background and it's a whole new NFT. So
yep,
Um,
yeah.
all right, so for my last question, going back to like the whole like work thing, do you like remote or in office slash in person? Like which one do you prefer more?
Yeah, I'm definitely a big remote guy. Because like I don't know, the typical 9 to 5, it's 8 hours of work, but most programmers can get what employers expect of 8 hours and so quick. And I don't know. I think programmers spend a lot more time thinking as opposed to just always typing, depending on what they're working on. So I don't know. I like remote because there's not someone looking over my shoulder 24/7, like, oh, is he typing? Is he typing? But it's good to know your team though. It's good to see them in person and know who you're working with. So for me, we're full remote at AMC, but we're going to a hybrid model at some point, which is going to be great because I mean, you get one day in the office and 4 days out or whatever. That's great. You get to know who you're working with, get to get some actual socialization as opposed to living in the basement like me and never leaving. But no, I think remote's super powerful though, and I don't think it's going away. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, makes sense. I definitely like doing in-person stuff too. But remote is like really fun because like you could just do everything like right in front of you. So I guess that's really nice. So I had another question. What skills do you think like are very important? Just like generally, or if it's like software development or like something else. What would be like the top three, let's say, skills that you would like say, like these are like the ones that I really recommend, to take into consideration or to like learn.
Yeah. So I mean, there are some like tech and also soft skills I think that are super important. And like I don't know if this is really even a soft skill, but being confident will get you so far. Like if you are confident, people will believe you. It's crazy how it works. If you say, "Oh, I'm a software engineer," and you're confident, you say, "Oh, I've been doing this and that, whatever." It's like great. It's like, "Oh, I'm aspiring to be a software engineer. I'm trying to like it's language." Be confident. I don't know, but sorry, what was the question again? I
Oh,
kind of
it was
went off tangent.
like what are the top three skills that you would
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
recommend?
yeah, yeah, skills. And in terms of like programming languages and whatnot, you could do a lot with JavaScript. Like if you're new to getting into programming, I think JavaScript is a really great language to start off with. You can build mobile apps, desktop apps, websites, whatever else. Run it backend with Node. Is it the most performant? Whatever, maybe not. But hey, if that gets you into programming and allows you to build cool stuff in a short amount of time, that's great. And once you realize, oh, hey, maybe I need to scale or actually build up a more performant app, then you can go learn maybe lower level or language you can actually kind of fine tune more so. But I think JavaScript and Python are two big languages that are pretty like low barrier to entry, but have really high use case and application. Like I see a lot of jobs for Python and JavaScript, and I think they're I'm not going to say they're. I mean, they're probably some of the easier languages, and maybe that's subjective, but I think they're pretty low barrier to entry, and I think those are great technologies to pick up. And yeah, that's probably it on that.
All right. So Funny had a question, and I had another one after. So he
All
said,
right.
if I ever get to an interview process, it's always 1v1, right? But but I have this fear of public speaking, introvert. Did you have that? Did you have it? If so, how do you get rid of it, or how do you cope up with meetings?
Yeah, I typically get really pretty nervous before interviews or meetings, and not so much for this necessarily, but like when it's professional and like I have a job on the line, like it's pretty nerve-wracking typically. But realistically, you're nervous before there. You start talking for 5, 10 minutes, and you realize it's just a conversation about tech, and you like tech, right? If you're here, you like tech. So really, you get in there and you realize one, they're humans. Two, you both like tech. All right, great. Now you get to have a conversation. I mean, sure, there's a job on the line, but if you look at it as just a conversation about tech, you just get to nerd out. I think it becomes significantly less stressful. I mean, yeah, sure, there's a job on the end, and it's easier said than done. Oh, don't be stressed, or just don't be anxious, you know. And sometimes it's hard when you get and you'll get interviews where you have four people sitting around, or like four people in a Zoom call or whatever, all asking you questions, and that could be maybe kind of nerve wracking. I didn't really run into that specifically too much. Like, I mean, it was definitely nerve wracking, no question about it. I think anyone would be a little bit nervous, at least if you're new to the industry. I mean, I think veterans are like, who cares, man? I've done this 100 times, but for me being new to the industry, it was. I think I don't think the nerves ever went away. At least the initial nerves, but like once you get in there and talk, you kind of settle down. You're like, oh wait, we're just talking about tech. I like tech, and it's probably my 2 cents on it.
All right. I hope that answers Funny's question.
Yeah, I don't know if
Um,
it did, but mm.
so another question from Maxi Chrome, Hayden. He asks, do you believe in quote unquote you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you?
Yeah, I think
Good
so. Yeah,
question.
I mean, in right now with me being a contractor through AMC, I really do believe you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. Because I mean, if I didn't with it being contract, I mean, it kind of goes both ways. I can leave whenever I want. They can get rid of me whenever they want, right? So if I said, oh, I don't like this, you just drop off and no questions asked, really. I mean, not much at least, and same goes for them, which could be bad for you. But if you're a strong dev and you're confident in your ability, you got nothing to worry about. If you think you're going to go in there and do good work and whatever, then you got nothing to worry about. So I don't know. I think for good devs, which if you're in here, I think you're slated out to be a good dev, if not already. You got nothing to worry about, and really, it's probably more so for you to interview them because there's definitely going to be an increase in demand for devs as there already kind of is right now. And if that's not going away, and as more people leave the workforce, there's going to be a lot of spots opening up. So um, they can't be picky for probably for a while. So yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So for
Awesome.
Benja.
Yeah, Benja actually asked a question. I think I'll take over the Q&A
Yeah.
segment for now. Yeah, sure. Okay, so Benja asks, what are your thoughts on people claiming one language is better than the other when building a solution? For example, you should have used X instead of Y without providing any real arguments. Or
Yeah.
people complaining because you should use another language to what they prefer. Another
Yeah.
very controversial opinion. That's actually a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Benja. And that's an interesting one for sure. And I've heard a lot of that in here in this community. I don't know what it is about programmers and like I don't know being on their high horse about my tech's the right way, but in the end, you're solving a problem, right? That's what tech's about. You're solving a problem. You're building something, right? And in the end, how fast can you build it and how well does it run? You know, and you just face problems one at a time. All right, I built this app in JavaScript. Okay, it's not performing well. All right, well, let's go find a language that's going to perform better. All right, we pick that. I mean, like, in the end, if you know how to work with it, I mean, like, and people pick languages for all kinds of reasons. People say, oh, React Native's bad. It's like, well, if you already know React, very, very low barrier, or like low barrier to entry compared to some going to learn Dart and Flutter and learning an entirely new language, figuring out the quirks and features with all that. Like, in the end, how fast can you get up and running? And how well does it do its job? So I don't know. I don't think it really matters. I mean, I think all developers or it seems like quite a few developers, it seems like a pretty common theme. Everyone's pretty passionate about what they've learned, and it's the right thing. Like everybody has their right technology, but again, how well does it solve a problem? That's a good question. I like that one.
Yeah, well, that basically wraps up what we've sort of had today. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you so much, Jack, for agreeing to have this conversation with us. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Yeah, thanks so much for
Um,
hosting, and appreciate
yeah,
everyone
the pleasure
listening.
was ours.
Hope it was helpful.
Yeah, yeah, it was really helpful. It was very insightful, and I'm sure the community really liked listening in. So that sort of concludes the talk for today, everyone, and I'm pretty sure there are no more questions.
Oh, I
So
have
yeah,
one
we'll
more.
leave. Yeah, sure, go for it, Barrett.
So just like one last one.
Sure
Um,
thing.
s- since we were talking about Python earlier, just like bringing up the whole like AI and machine learning, what are your thoughts on like GPT-3, OpenAI, and Copilot?
Oh, all right. I've been messing around with Copilot a bit recently. For the people who say it's going to replace developers, I don't believe so. At least not yet. And if so, only basic tasks. I think it's really useful. I mean, like for developers, I mean, there's small things like sometimes you get little brain hiccups. You forget what you're going to type, and then Copilot's like, oh yeah, here you go. TPG3, like all that. It's definitely cool tech. I haven't done much around AI, and I'm not super knowledgeable about it, but I mean, it's definitely technology of the future, and you could see it being used in huge companies to do crazy stuff, whether it be like YouTube algorithms and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's really almost kind of scary how good some of the tech is getting. But it'll be interesting to see what happens over the future and see what happens. But yeah, it's cool tech, and I think the future is definitely there.
All right, sounds good. So that basically
Yeah,
wraps up everything.
thank you everyone for joining,
Awesome.
and
Yeah,
this
thank you so much, guys.
entire thing. Yeah, thank you.
And have a
This
good
entire
weekend,
thing will
everyone.
be me too.
So
This entire thing will be uploaded to Spotify, guys. So if anyone didn't get a chance to listen into the whole thing, you're more than welcome to listen to it on the BuilderGroop podcast. And yeah, make sure to share it with your friends. And thank you everyone for joining. Have a great night
yep.
or
See you
day.
later,
Thank
guys.
you,
Thanks for
everyone.
Depending on
hosting.
your time zone. Yep,
See you.
pleasure's ours.